Hey, John. Hey, Brian. John, I sent you a request to become a speaker. It may have flashed up on your screen quickly. So if you want to just hit in the bottom left corner, there's a request toggle. Just press that, and it will request for you to come to be a speaker, and I will approve it. And that's actually the fastest way to get you to become a speaker.
Good afternoon, Sherry.
Hey, Brian, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. John, oh, John, there you go. If you press the mic button on the bottom left, John, you'll be able to speak with us. In the Hey, John,
Hey Sherry, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Well, trying to figure out these little gadgets that you got me to hook me up.
Hey, never too old to learn something new, John.
That's true. That's true. Stay fresh. Stay curious. I know.
That's right. And I'm going to introduce you to my co-host is Brian. I don't know if the two of you know each other.
Hi,
I've,
Brian.
s- hey, John, I've seen you around for many, many years.
Yeah, I've been there. Been there, done that.
And I sent a speaker request to Barry Levy, so hopefully he'll join us as well. Go ahead, Barry. Did you want to say hello before I proceeded?
Hey, John, good to see you. Glad you're feeling better.
Oh, thank you, buddy. Nice to hear from you. It's been a while.
Well, as many know, it wouldn't be my space unless I did a proper introduction of our guest. So here we go.
I have
I,
a I have a good Barry the Pirate story whenever you're
oh,
ready.
perfect. We'll get to that in a few moments. We can't wait. We love Barry stories, so that'll be awesome. But let me introduce you properly first, John. I'm so excited that our guest tonight. He's been actively playing poker for over 40 years and has 38 consecutive years of Hendon mob entries, totaling 659 the last time I checked. His total live earnings on the Hendon mob are over 6.3 million, with his best live cash being 250,000, which was for his win of the 1997 WSOP 2K event. He has 102 WSOP caches, 3 WSOP bracelets, and 2 WSOP circuit rings. John Cernuto, or as he's fondly known, Miami John, won a 2020 GPI award for his record of live caches at 517. And I'm sure that number's probably higher by now. And we'll ask him about it in a minute. At the 2006 WSOP, John final tabled 3 events, 2 7-card stud events, and 1 Raz event. I know this intro is long winded, but hang in there. In 2023 Miami John um, cashed 55 events with 8 first place finishes, 8 second place finishes, and 8 third place finishes for a total of 24 of the 55 cashes in 2023 were third place or higher finishes, top 3 finishes. Wow, not bad for a young guy of 80, eh? Miami John, thank you so much for joining us. And can you please start us out with this an easy answer to the question, how did you get your nickname?
Well, that's a very involved story, but how the way it came about was I was down at Sam's Town one night drinking, having some fun, and met this girl, and so we had a nice fun evening, got kind of wasted and stuff like that. So the next day, I'm playing poker at the Stardust, and there's this phone call back. We didn't have cell phones then, so it came over the pager and said, "There's a phone call for Miami Baby Doll," and so I answered it. I said, "It must be for me," and it was her. And she just wanted to say she was leaving town, and I think she wanted to borrow $100 probably. So anyway, I just kind of stuck with that name. I kind of liked it, the Miami John thing. So that's how it started. And I signed up my first tournament with it. I went wire to wire. I think I only lost 2 pots the whole time. So I was kind of like stuck with the name after that, you know. So that's how it came about.
That's awesome. You know, a lot of people say, or I shouldn't say a lot of people, a lot of men say women are the rake. But in this case, she gave you a great nickname.
She did. She did. Never heard, never heard from her again. But
You're probably better off. But
yeah,
anyway, one of my favorite stories about you, John, is I want to say it was in Atlantic City, maybe at the Borgata, and you were playing, I believe, a WSOP event, and you final tabled two different events and they moved the final tables and you were playing you were playing both events at the same time, so you were running across the room or whatever, from ballroom to ballroom, whatever the situation was, to play both events at the same time. Could you walk us a little bit through that experience?
sure. First of all, it wasn't at the Brigada. It was at the Taj Mahal.
Awesome.
And I had qualified to get into day two of the No Limit event. I think it was like 300 some odd players. It was a $550 event. This is back in, I was 65 years old, back in 2010, I believe. Yeah, phone call. So I walk in on day two, and there's a 7 card stud event starting. Well, I was very much about mixed games back then, as I am now, and they didn't have that many participants. So for the love of the game, I just signed up for that one also. And I only got to play it on my breaks and for dinner. And during the breaks and the dinner, I had this massive chip lead. Like if the average was 15,000, I had 115,000. I don't know where it came from, but I just never lost a pot. I never missed a bet. I jammed up the pots real big, and everything just went my way that day, you know. So towards the end of the night, I'm down to the final table, and I can't even see the stud tournament. But when they got to the final table, they moved the table over next to mine. So I could be like a little Bobby Fischer and jump from table to table when playing different hands at different times. But that didn't last too long because once you get down to a four-handed no limit event, you can't move off your table. So I kind of sat there and watched my chips go down and down and down. And finally, and one of the players in the no limit was actually using it against me. He would take his time because he knew I wanted to get to the other tournament. So it was kind of frustrating. But I got down the heads up in the no limit, and we did a ICM chop, and I was able to win that event. Jump over to the stud tournament, which I was in fifth place, and get another massive rush and win that tournament also. So that was quite a thrill. That was at the Taj Mahal.
I love that story. Here you are playing two different types of, poker events. You get to the final table of both of them. They move the final table next to the other final table, table, to make your life a little easier.
Yeah,
And you win both events. That is an amazing story, John.
yeah. I think it's a one of a kind. I don't think too many people. I think some people won 2 tournaments in one day, but not side by side like that. And they were big events. They were $550 events. So I had my work cut out for me, and all the players were pretty good, and it wasn't easy. But it was quite an accomplishment. I'm very proud of that. Thank you for bringing that one up. That was,
I love that story. And Brian, I'm going to give you a chance to ask questions. Go ahead, bud.
Well, one of the things that stuck out to me, over 6 million in earnings with the biggest cash of 250,000. That is a grinder for sure.
oh, definitely.
Like these guys that have come along, since 2003 that won a big event, and okay, now they're up there. It's like that's not nearly as impressive as the long haul being around.
Yeah.
So what do you think about, like, you think that's fair for him to kind of stall, or what's your take, like as far as
Well,
a guy that's taking his
I
time?
personally wouldn't do that. I don't think it's fair or it's right. But everybody has their own
Yeah,
little niche, and if he wanted to take an edge doing that, then he was legally right to do that. But personally, I don't like to take little shots like that, and he
yeah,
did. He was kind of a nuisance, not just to me, just to the other players too, because he was really dragging it out. But I can't remember if I busted him or the other guy busted him, or maybe we both busted him. I don't remember. But yeah, that was just his way of doing things. I never seen him again. Don't hold it against him or anything like that. But it definitely wouldn't have been my way of doing things. I like to be fair about it. But anyway, in the long run, it all worked out, and I was able to be victorious in both events. Like I said, I kind of felt like a Bobby Fischer, jumping over and playing a hand here and there.
yeah.
It was kind of cool.
That is a well above average story. That might be the best story we've heard, Sherry. Honestly, like I don't know that that will ever be duplicated. Like that's pretty tough. I know, I know. Deeb, he sometimes at the World Series will be playing multi-tabling, but I don't think he's ever gotten down to the end like
Well, and
that.
Yeah.
who has
So,
ever won both events? I mean, that is
yeah,
just,
that's what I mean.
and they're two different games of poker, stud and no limit. Like, it's just amazing to me that you could go to and from two different tables, switch your mindset about what game you're playing, and then lo and behold, win both tournaments. I just think it's an awesome story.
Thank you. I think experience has a lot to do with it. I've got a lot of experience in No Limit and a lot more experience in horse type games. So I'm able to go back and forth without even thinking about it. I could do it in my sleep.
I'm sure. Hopefully, I'll get to that point by the time I'm your age, John.
Uh, okay. I'm sure you will, sweetheart.
Well, listen, for those that have listened to me in the spaces here on X for the going on a year now, I have been tooting the horn of why John Cernuto should be in the World Poker Hall of Fame, and I can't believe that he isn't already. And so, part of us doing this interview today is to get this interview down so that I can put it on replay from now into the time we can suggest or put in our suggestions of who we think should be inducted this year. And I hope after this interview, those that are listening now and those that will listen to the replay of it would agree that John is most deserving of that honor. And it's surprising he hasn't gotten it thus far. Do you have any stories that you'd like to tell us, John? I'll tell you what, before I ask that question, um, tell us what type, part of, and I know you know this, but I'm just going to say it for our listeners' point of view. Part of the requirements for being inducted to the Hall of Fame is playing high stakes poker. So in cash games, what would be your highest stake or high stakes you've played?
The highest game I ever played in was 500 and 1,000 limit poker. It was uh, several mixed games. So, but my average game that I played for 15 years was 2 and 400, 3 and 600, and some 4 and 800. So those
What
are the highest games. And I was fairly successful in playing cash games. But I might throw in this that cash games and trying to select a person to go into Hall of Fame, it seems the hard way to measure how can you be
Yeah,
transparent? How can you be accountable for how you've done in cash games? There is no record. It's not like the it's not like tournaments. Tournament poker is factual. It's there. It shows your numbers. It shows the math. It shows everything that you've done. And it's in and you're doing it against great numbers and great competitions. And to me, that's the holy grail that should be used in selecting Hall of Fame members, not so much cash games. Cash games is important. I can see it, but I don't see it as a qualifying vessel to get into the Hall of Fame. How do you feel about that, Sherry?
I agree with you. except it's part of the measuring stick at this time, right? So I just want people to know and hear it from you that you have played high stake cash games. And I too believe that the tournament trail is a great barometer of the person's eligibility for the Hall of Fame. And Lord knows you have a proven track record in the tournament arena, so to speak. You know, your numbers speak volumes. Nobody can deny that your numbers are deserving. That's for sure. And so I just want us to, just get some more information out there from your mouth to the audience's ear, so to speak. Now tell us.
Well,
Go ahead, Brian.
well, also, Sherry, I mean, it's not like John went and played those stakes for, decades now and then disappeared. Like he's definitely withstood the test of time. He's been out there in the cash game streets and any for sure any of those um, any of those levels that he mentioned are high stakes to me, beyond high stakes, so
I agree, and
I mean,
I
it,
Yeah,
totally.
those are the highest
I
games
would
in
I
the
would say
world.
that even though you guys are right, it's not there's but there's tons of people that you played with that you've never seen again throughout that time, like you know all of that. So you know it's I would argue that that's definitely a big check mark there,
Yeah,
Sherry.
those games were definitely one of the highest tiers of that you could play in poker during that period of time. Maybe Bobby's room was a little bit higher and a little bit more challenging. I never ventured into Bobby's room. I pretty much, kept it to where I played cash games as I traveled in my tournament. So I did both. To me, cash games is the way to build up your bankroll. Um, but if you really want to get into the higher games, you need to have some big tournament wins also to get that cash going, because cash is what votes you into that category of playing high stakes cash. Because without cash, you can't get in the games.
Right on. I agree totally. Now, I just want to finish where I was going a minute ago. John, do you have any stories you would like us to hear that you think are? Oh, I tell you what. Tell us that Barry Levy story.
Well, okay, I'm sitting at the regatta, and there's this really, really big pot. I mean, chips were scattered from the 3 seat to the 8 seat. It was just huge. And Barry was one of my opponents. There was four of us. Finally, on Sixth Street, Barry is all in. He can't say nothing. So we continued out the hand, and so now I I get everybody out. I think I had one apparent. So I show my hand to the dealer, and the dealer acknowledges that the winning hand, but we don't know what Barry's got yet. So Barry's just sitting there, and usually when somebody doesn't get up, they intend on staying. So I figure I've definitely I'm going to win the side pot, but I'm not going to win this big, big pot in the middle. And Barry jumps up and says, "Dealer, get the two pots straight. Get the side pot right and get the other pot right." So I figure, oh, well, Barry's got me beat. So I get the side pot, and Barry stands up, turns his hand over, and says, "Give John the rest of the pot," and walks away. I mean, talk about torture. And the
Very
biggest,
slow roll and a no slow roll.
yeah, something like that. But it's all kibitzing with that Barry guy. He's so funny. But the
Barry,
biggest,
you have any questions or comments about that story or any other thing?
yeah, I want to know what he was thinking.
I just wanted to make sure you got your money's worth. That's all.
Yeah, you got your money's worth too. We got you. But one of the biggest hands I ever had in pot limit Omaha was against Barry about 5 years ago. Barry will remember this one. I at the end of the hand was pot limit Omaha 8 or better. I had the second best low, and I had the top full house. I had sixes full of threes, and then ace four for low, or ace five for low. Barry turns over, quad deuces and ace four for low, and scoops me in a hand that I'm figured it's going to launch me into the, to the day two. And I wind up getting eliminated by Barry. Biggest hand I've
Wow.
ever had.
Very.
Sixes, there's two sixes, two deuces, and a three on the board. I got a six, a three, an ace, and a five. I said, I can't possibly lose this hand. And he beats me both ways.
Ouch. That was painful.
That was. You remember that one, Barry?
Yeah, well, we've been playing for over 20 years, so it's so many hands we've been involved with together. It's tough to remember them all. But yeah, that one I remember.
Oh, yeah, I know you remember that because I always remind you of it.
Okay, I'm going to do a little house cleaning, so bear with me for a minute. I promised we were going to do a t shirt giveaway tonight. And so, here in a few moments, I'm going to give out some directions on how you can win the free t shirt. So, just continue to listen in, folks. Now, John, let me ask you, there's sort of an elephant in the room because some of us know and some of us don't that you've been dealing with health issues. Is there anything you'd like to say about your health?
Well, it's definitely kept me from playing tournaments. There's no way I can play an 8 to 10 hour tournament. I have gone 3 or 4 times to the Orleans and played some tournaments. That only take 3 to 5 hours, but it's mostly fatigue. And my health issue has been doing chemotherapy. I did it for 3 months. I just finished up doing it. I have some pretty good news that I've actually made a lot of progress with the chemo. Uh, I think it's made me eligible for surgery. If I can get through a successful surgery, I may be able to eliminate my liver cancer. That's what I'm working on right now. And one of the things that is affecting me, that's still affecting me, and you might run into it during this interview, is I have this chemo fog brain where once I get off on a tangent, I can't remember the original question. So you might have to bear with me. I might have to ask you to repeat the question a couple of times. I did a really good interview with WPT about 3 months ago, and it was one-on-one at my house, so it wasn't live like this one. I must have asked the poor guy 20 times, what was the question again? So
Well, John, we don't mind at all. We're just so happy we're getting the opportunity to chat with you today, and even more happy that your health is improving through the treatments, and there's great hope for sure. And you will continue to get our prayers, bud.
thank you. I've had lots of prayers and lots of support. I have a special needs daughter. And I walked by her room one night and I just opened the door and said, I could hear her talking to herself kind of. I said, Debbie, listen, you don't have to talk to yourself. Just say it quietly. She said, Daddy, I'm talking to God about your health.
Oh, how precious is that?
I know. So I said,
Oh,
oh, shut my mouth. I said, well, you keep on talking to God, honey. It's okay.
you stepped right in that one, didn't
I
you,
sure
John?
did. I sure did.
Well, I want to give a little shout out to our sponsor, Elevated Results. Many thanks to them for sponsoring us. If you need a tailor made workout program due to injuries, health, or otherwise, Elevated Results can help you lose weight or gain weight. Check out their Twitter account or their webpage at elevatedresultspt.com. Please give them a follow as well. Go ahead, software.
So, does it look like you're going to be able to make it over to the World Series at all this summer, or
That's up.
it's too long, or
No, I think that if just time goes by, I would be able to. However, I'm expecting a referral to go to USC for help and possibly do the surgery out there. That's going to take me into May, and I don't think I'm going to recover that quickly. So maybe I might be able to play a couple in July, but I don't think I'm going to be much of a participant this year.
yeah? I had a friend that went to USC for his cancer stuff and had
Oh,
good
did he
things
have
to say
good?
about it.
Did he have
So,
good results? I hope.
yeah, yeah, he was able to get cleared and everything. So he's I mean, it's just you always got to go back and check it every so often, and
Yeah, I'm
just hope it
I'm
doesn't
definitely
happen.
a stage 4, so it'll always be, of concern to me. But I'm hoping to be cancer free, maybe within 3 to 4 months, and just mind my p's and q's, and maybe I bought myself an extra 3 to 5 years. I sure hope so.
Well, we do too, Bud. And, the good thing about poker, there's always a poker tournament to be played. So you're going to miss a few in the next couple months, but after that, there will be plenty for you to play.
Oh yeah, in the overall scheme of things, these tournaments don't matter. My health, my family is what comes first, and that's the road that I'm on right now. So if I can squeeze in a tournament, I will. But I have to be, awake. I have to be conscious. I have to be have some stamina to finish the tournament. So all those are considerations that I'll have to make at the time.
Of course, cross that bridge when you get to it.
Yeah,
Now,
it's kind of rough being sidelined. James Woods has named me as the Cal Ripken Iron Man of poker. I've been a grinder in tournament poker all my life, pretty much, at least since I've come to Las Vegas. And for me to do something else just doesn't seem right. This is what I do. This is what I love. I'm very humbled that your show has come to me and put me in the spotlight for uh, being a member of the Hall of Fame. It's not going to change my life if it does, but it certainly would make me proud. Uh, I'm very humbled by it and very appreciative of you guys uh, carrying on the baton for me. I appreciate it very much. It's nice to have Sherry in your corner. What can I say?
well, I appreciate those kind words, John. And, I am just got, as I've told you before, I'm just so surprised you're not already a Hall of Fame member. And if I can push that issue this year, next year, whatever, I'm going to continue to do so because I cannot think of one person more deserving. And there are a lot of deserving people,
Yeah,
but I can't think of anyone more deserving that's has stood the test of time, as Brian brought up in the world of poker, and you've done it all. And it's time for that to be acknowledged and to get you inducted, plain and
Yeah.
simple. Bud,
I
go
think
ahead,
I've
Brian.
kind of over the years fallen between the cracks a little bit. Some of it self-inflicted. I'm the type of player that I'm not really good at networking or joining the clique or anything like that. So when the money maker explosion came along, a lot of my peers and they went towards the Hollywood, branding themselves and getting bigger names for themselves, and deservedly so. But I chose to stay on the tournament trail. I was going like to Foxwoods, to Brigada, Taj Mahal, Mississippi, you name it, I went there. And I stayed on the tournament trail. I didn't go into, make a bigger name for myself. I just stuck to what I knew that I liked to do. And I would notice that, hey, there's only a few people that I've ever played with. It was all new people. Where did they all go? I didn't even know they went to Hollywood. A lot of them did. And, they played the higher limit events. They went to WPT events. I didn't go down that road that much. I pretty much stuck to the tournament trail. And it got me a lot of cashes and, a lot of notoriety in that aspect. But it didn't highlight my career. It didn't put me out there in the limelight. But I'm glad I did what I did. I'm
yeah.
very, very proud of what I did. I'm glad I stuck with it.
Well, I always from I'm a I would say post money maker uh, poker player, um, post poker boom, um, and I always thought of you as no different than any of those people. Like you were one of the well-known players that was always around, and you always every time I saw you around, like I, let's just say this: I've never heard anybody say anything negative about you.
Thank you.
Um, like I've always had a positive impression of you from the time I started playing. So like, I don't think to me it's absurd. Like honestly, that you're not in the Hall of Fame. I think Sherry's right. Like there's a certain list of people that keep getting mentioned, but you're definitely you know you're definitely high up on that list. I would think like that should really be in. I think the whole system's broken. However it's selected, it seems like there's some kind of deal where somebody kind of gets to decide and people give their votes to that person
I
or
don't know
whatever.
how it
That
works
I
either.
don't really
Yeah, I don't know
understand.
how it works either, but there's definitely some politics involved. At least there was in the past. Now it's more of a popularity contest where people who get the most votes are very savvy with the internet and the social media. And I'm not there, obviously. So it makes it more difficult. Like I said, I've kind of slipped in between the cracks. You had the old school way of doing it. Now you got a new school way of doing it. And Alan
Well,
Kessler pointed out to me that if I didn't get in last year, I probably will never get in because the there's a lot of really good young players that turn. I think it's 45 is the minimum age limit that turned 45 this year. So there's going to be a lot of
right.
popular players who are very deserving to be into the Hall of Fame that will probably go in ahead of me because of the popularity aspect of Hall of Fame selection. But I got good people like you and Sherry out there, James Woods, Robert Turner, and my family, and that's what I'm doing it for. It's not going to change my life one way or the other. It would be an honor to be in it, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over it if I don't. And I kind of want to do it for my friends and my family. That's why I'm on the show today.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like honestly, look at, and I don't want to put anybody down specifically, but all of those people that you're mentioning at 45, like you just haven't stood the test of time like you have.
And
So
I think
you
it's
can't
actually,
make that
just to
argument.
stop you for a minute, I think it's 35.
Oh, really? Hmm.
Isn't it 35?
Yeah, I thought he was
Okay,
right. I think it was
45. We'll just
45.
go with 45 right now.
Yeah, because these guys would have probably already been in there by now if it was 35.
I mean, you've got some great players in there, and certainly, but like, I think there's a different thing. Like I was thinking about before the show, like you can not only tell us about the poker boom, but you can go back, pretty far into the past of things that you know, and that
All right,
it's just a whole different.
You know,
let's dive into that, Brian. Let's dive into that very thing. John Cernuto, have you ever played poker with Stu Unger?
yes.
Tell us a Stu Unger story.
Well, the best one I get was actually I played a hand of heads up with him. I was more, I wouldn't call myself a novice, but I was in my early part of my career. And Stu Elgar and I were in a hand, and I think I had an up and down straight draw. That's what it was. And I was in the big line. And he had raised the pot. And I think he had queen 10, I had queen jack. And the flop came 10-9, and I checked. Stewie bet, and I moved in on him on a bluff. And it took him about 3 seconds to make the read. And he said, well, that's obviously a straight draw. And he called me instantly, insta called with top pair and a queen kicker. And he was right. It's exactly, he nailed it right on the head. Um, I have some other Stewie stories, but they're not really poker stories, but I don't really want to go into them right now. But I remember one time he borrowed some money from me, and he did pay me back. And he told me I needed to get a haircut, and he told me to go where he goes. He said, but do me a favor, make sure you tip him because I have a reputation to uphold down there.
All right, how about,
So
do you
my
have a story about playing poker with Amarella Slim?
Emerald Slim, the only one time is he tried to bluff me, and it was once again in the beginning of my career, and I was just never going to let go of two aces. I wasn't that savvy to let it go. There were two jacks on the board, and he put a lot of heat on me, and I instantaneously moved on him with a 5-bet shove, and he folded. And he mentioned it, and I've got to know Amarillo through his tournaments. I was successful in a couple of his Amarillo Slim Super Bowl tournaments. My first major tournament when I won as John Baby Doll Miami, John Cernuto, was his tournament.
I
So
love
he
it.
was always the cut up. He was uh, always fun to be around. He was quite a trip.
All right. Any story about playing poker with Doyle Brunson?
Uh, Two stories with Doyle. Once I played in a pot where he came down to our 3 and 600 game. He played much higher, of course, all the time, and he was involved in Omaha Eight or better, and he didn't have that much experience in Omaha Eight or better. And me and my friends, we did. We played it all the time. So after about 3 or 4 attempts of trying to make two kings hold up as an overpair, he just said, "I'm tired of playing with you, not professionals." He called us. What do he call us? Oh, specialists. That's what he called us. And he quit the game. Yeah, he called us specialists. And then there was another time I'm playing with Billy Baxter and Tommy Fisher, and we're playing 4-800 Badoogie. And Tommy Fisher was kind of known as a loose player. And Billy Baxter had raised, and I had re-raised. And Doyle is sitting behind Tommy Fisher and says, "Can I say something?" Because Tommy threw his hand away. He says, "Can I have Tommy's cards and finish the handout?" Well, Billy Baxter is sitting on a 1, 2, 3 perfect. It's not a Badoogie, but it's the best hand you can have if you don't have a Badoogie. So he has ace deuce three. And he says, "Do you mind, John?" And I got ace deuce six. I have a really good hand too. I said, "No, I don't care. Let him back in." So Doyle took Tommy's folding cards, which is kind of rare because you usually figure who wants to take the hand of a loose player who folds, right? So Doyle, and what his hand was just an ace and a deuce. So I mean, it had chances, but Doyle put in $1,200 to play this hand. So we played it on by 4th Street. Doyle was forced to fold because I made a six perfect, and Billy Baxter made a seven. So we put a lot of heat on him, and he had to fold. So here's Doyle, the greatest, goes in, buys somebody's hand, and has to fold it on 4th Street after putting in a couple $1,000. But the guy had a lot of gamble in it, and a lot of spirit. I give Doyle a lot of credit.
I love it. I love it. How about a story playing with Robert Turner, the chip burner?
Yeah, well, his name is his namesake is True, because I get in the tournament and I get into a hand with him, and I had like a marginal hand. I just want to play it soft, but when you're playing with Robert Turner, he's gonna make you put chips in the pot. Matter of fact, back in the old days, his nickname wasn't Robert Chipburner, it was Robert Tournament. That's what they called him because he won so many tournaments. But as he got into the Omaha, he was a real rammer jammer in those split games, and it was always fun to play with Robert. Robert is a world class player himself, and always enjoyed playing with Robert. Super nice man.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine, and we've interviewed him. He was our first interview of the Spaces, which was just tons of fun, and I consider him a good friend. Um, how about any stories playing with Chip Reese?
Well, not too many Chick Reese stories. I played a couple hands with him. He got in the same game as when Doyle did with us, and kind of played Omaha the same way. So his lack of experience cost him a little bit. But a fine gentleman, great poker player, obviously. Um, but Chip and I and Doyle actually went to the same doctor to have a weight loss surgery back in 2005. They were a little bit ahead of me. So the only one thing about Chip was that he told me, I expressed I missed a desire for pizza and candy because I was really behaving myself. And he was like the devil's advocate. He said, "John, didn't you know you can play poker and still have pizza and candy in your diet? It doesn't hurt you. They say it might, but you can try it." So I started back on pizza and candy. I don't know if it helped my poker game, but my diet went to hell after that.
All right, I brought up a couple of folks from our audience, and I see Real Fats has got his hand up. So go ahead, Real Fats.
Miami John, I haven't talked to you in ages.
Well, tell
Oh,
him who you are in real life.
He knows who I am, I think.
Okay.
It's Scooter Steve, Fats.
hey, how you doing?
We've only got a couple final tables together.
Well,
We're at a Raz final table, and I think we were at a final table at the up in San Jose one time.
oh, San Jose is a great place to play poker. They
It
just
was
have
the
so many fans there. It's really a fun spot. So go
we were at
ahead.
the final of that. It was a 2000 before the Bounty tournament, the
Oh,
year
okay.
that John Forrest beat J.J. Lou.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of fond memories at San Jose. So tell us about the Raz tournament. How did I do? Did I play bad?
You always play good. You're still around. I can't believe you're still. I just was looking. I saw your name in the space. I said, I can't believe Sherry got a hold of Miami John. He's still playing.
He's still
When you got to
alive.
be like 200 years old.
Just shy, just a couple years shy of that.
Well, Fats, I'm going to challenge you to go back and listen to the recording because you're going to hear some of his stats, which are just mind-boggling.
I've
What
seen the
his
guy
stats
play. He
are.
knows every game and every angle of every game. The guy's
Well,
an awesome player.
Raz has always been a good game for me. I've cashed in it the last 3 years in a row. So I've always enjoyed Raz. It's kind of a game that can be very stressful and frustrating, and it does get the goat of a lot of people. But I enjoy the game. It doesn't get played much cash wise anymore, but it's a fun game.
Well,
And
Brian and I have committed to learning how to play Raz one of these days.
No, no,
Uh,
no. Last last year, last year I'm standing there, John, and um, who was it?
Oh, I
Cherry?
don't remember. Uh,
Anyway, you know who he is. He's down to like half of a bet, and 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 I'm standing next to the other guy's rail, and the other guy's rail starts talking about the bracelet, and I'm like, I'm getting the heck out of here. Wouldn't you know? He came back from half a bet to win to beat this guy. I was like, I'm not standing next to that. And if anybody's ever on my rail, just no talk about the
yeah,
bracelet, okay? Until it's on my arm.
yeah, don't jinx it.
yeah, definitely don't jinx it. It's like the guy who doesn't want to make a deal at the final table. He's always the next one to leave. Always.
That's so true.
I I got to tell you this story,
Go ahead.
but you were talking about Stewie, and I was sitting there waiting for you to same story because my dad, we're walking into the World Series one year, and he looks up and he sees Stewie's picture, and he goes, "That's the guy I was playing 7 card stud with at the Stardust like years ago." And I'm like, "Whatever, you weren't playing with Stu Unger or whatever."
Yeah.
The story that he tells me is hilarious. He's like, they were playing, and Stewie, I guess, told him, he's like, "I don't know why you're trying to draw to that. That card is gone. I don't know what the specifics of the hand were." But he basically told my dad what he had in the middle of the hand.
Yeah.
Like, and my dad was like, "Maybe this isn't the game for me."
Oh, that was pretty nice to him, actually.
I love that story
He
too.
was
It's so
wise. He was
funny.
wising up the sucker. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. My dad was the
At
sucker for
least in that
sure.
hand. Yeah.
Well, we brought up
Yeah.
Asimov. It was one of our listeners. Did you have any questions, Isaac, or comments?
I just love hearing all of these stories. Great to meet you, John, digitally. Yeah, like you should be in the Hall of Fame. I've heard your name the first time I ever played at a table at Commerce. I want to say about 2 years ago. Somebody brought the name Miami John up, and after that, I did not hear your name again until Sherry actually mentioned you, which is crazy because yeah, here you are in the space. But I had a question. I don't know if this has already been asked or anything like that, but you still play to this day. Do you feel like all the new players that play with solvers and everything. Do you feel like at a disadvantage playing against them with your skill set?
Yeah, I don't know too much about solvers, but I do know the general consensus. You could correct me if I'm wrong. It is a form of cheating. Am I correct?
Only if you're using it at the table or if you're playing online and using it while you're playing online.
Yeah, it doesn't come up too much with me because I don't play a lot of no limit tournaments like I used to. And I think it's used mostly for no limit. I guess it can be used in limit, but I'm fully confident I'm just as good as any solver in any limit game. As far as no limit, that definitely would give somebody an edge. And if they're using it at the table, it would be a form of cheating. I would be uh, very offended, by it. But if it's used to build their skills up and make them a better player, I guess I'm all for it.
That's right. That's right. That's a dope answer. My other question would be, do you have any stories of playing with Cradle Andington? Because I know he recently passed, so just curious.
No, to me, Cradle Anthony was a name back in the old days. Uh, very well respected, very well known, but never really played a hand with him at all. But I did know of him, yes.
Cool. Cool. Well, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay,
you,
well,
Isaac.
nice talking to you,
Appreciate it.
Isaac. Thank you.
Hey, you too. I gave you a follow, by the way, man. I hope that we can get you into into the Hall of Fame. I think if everybody on X got behind you, could make enough noise to make it happen.
Well, I appreciate your support and thank you for the love. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
We're going to work on that, Isaac, for sure. Thank you.
You let me know how I can help, Sherry. I'm all for it.
Yep, just keep reposting when I'm posting about him. That's all I can say.
Cool, cool.
Thank you. Go ahead, Fats.
Okay, I got a couple of things here. I have two things I want to say, and then I want to tell a Miami John story.
Okay.
Um, the first thing is the final Raz table that we were at was the one that Carlos Mortensen finished second. I finished third, and I think you might have gone out fourth or fifth.
Uh-huh.
But I did in one of my great performances. I outlasted you in a tournament. Um, but what I wanted to say, the other thing I wanted to say was just to give everybody an idea of how skilled John is in the mixed games, like the studs and all those things. Everybody knows Phil Hellmuth is known for winning no limit hold'em tournaments, and he had all his bracelets were in no limit hold'em. And finally, one year, he decided he was going to try and play some of the mixed games, and I saw him come up to Miami John and say, "Look, give me a few pointers." John took him off to the side for a few minutes, gave him a few pointers, and he went on to win the bracelet. So that's how strong John is.
I remember that day. He gave me $500 for 5 minutes worth of lessons. So
Now,
I definitely got him to be a little bit more aggro in the stud game, getting in there, three betting with a little bit less than marginal hands. And I think it helped pay him off. I didn't realize he won that one. That's amazing. Amazing story.
well, the story I want to tell is I've told this story many times because it was kind of semi fascinating anyway. I was sitting at a table with Miami John in Raz in the Raz tournament down at the World Series. And the action comes around to John, and as he's reaching for his chips or whatever happens, John collapsed and fell all out of his chair onto the floor, and they called medics in, and I forget I think he had maybe a little seizure. I forget exactly what happened. Not important,
It
but
turned out to be low on blood.
it was his blood sugar, I guess. So he was taken out of they stopped the tournament. They tended to him. I think I even lent him oxygen at the time because I had an extra oxygen tank on me. But anyway,
You did.
so they
You
were
did.
So anyway, they took him away, and now they're getting ready to restart the tournament. And Jack Effel comes over to the table, and he's reviewing the action where we were on the table, and they get to where John's hand was, and they were going to just fold his hand. And I said to Jack, Jack, I'm not trying to cause trouble here or anything, but I could have sworn right before he fell down, he said raise.
I did.
And Jack said, well, I'm not honoring that. Forget it, blah, 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 blah. And he did whatever he had to do, and they picked up the chips. So I didn't see John again until like a week and a half later. I run into him coming out of the restroom, like just when the main event was getting ready to start. And I said, John, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I said to him, I said, hey, right before you went down, I could have sworn I heard you say raise. And he says, I did. I had like ace 2-3. And so anyway, I did go back to Jack Effel to file a complaint, but he wasn't going to go back 3 weeks and reset all the cards.
That
But
was nice of you, Steve. Do you remember who my opponent was?
in that hand
Yeah, I
was
do. It was Chris Ferguson.
Chris Ferguson. I was just going to say Chris Ferguson. Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct. He was definitely there. Yep.
And what's really weird is I told Chris, I said after the fact, after I saw it a couple weeks later, I said, I re-raised you. And what happened after that? He said, John, you never re-raised me. So in my subconscious, I was doing all this stuff, but yet I was unconscious and going down. So
That's insane.
it was due to a loss of blood. I was anemic at the time. As a matter of
I heard
fact,
you say raise.
yeah, I definitely did. But
So John's going down to the ground, but he's still playing poker.
yeah,
Listen to that. If that's not dedication and deserving of the Hall of Fame, I don't know what is, people.
it's
Yep.
definitely a lot of pre-planning that goes into poker. So I guess I was pre-planning my moves out loud.
All right. For those of you that are listening, I'm doing a t shirt giveaway today. This is what you have to do to qualify to win the t shirt. It's going to be really simple. You're going to go into the comments of this space and you're gonna tag the WSOP, D Negs, and Miami John, and just type in something to the effect John deserves to be in the HOF. Anybody that does that from now until the end of this space is going to qualify for a drawing for that T-shirt. Let me repeat it. You got to tag the WSOP, Miami John, and D Negs that John deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. You can word it however you want. From now till this time the space ends, you'll qualify for the drawing, which I'll do live probably later tonight. So, as I am off, Isaac, did you have something you wanted to comment? I saw he had turned his speaker on. All right, I'm going to move along. Burroughs, you came up as a speaker. Do you have a question or comment?
Well, I just want to comment that to Miami John, the fact that that happened to you while you were raised in Jesus. How did that make you feel after the fact? I mean, the fact that you were raised in Jesus and that happened just seems very, I don't know, that seems almost, you know,
Kind of
too much
ironic
of a
and poetic.
coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. He sent me
I
to
mean,
the ground.
did you think about that? I mean, because the last thing you saw was Jesus before that happened. What was going through your mind?
Well, you never really play poker according to your fear of your opponent. You play your hand and my hand was fearless. So I play fearlessly when I have a really good hand. So the namesake didn't bother me. And certainly after I fell down and was unconscious for 20 minutes with, I can barely hear paramedics yelling, "John, come back to us, John, come back," and then had no idea. The tournament already had proceeded without me. Then they come in and put me in a stretcher and haul me out, and I'm waving to my friends. It was kind of a very strange moment. I would like to add to one story about that. And somebody had told me that Jeffrey Alessandro, who won the tournament, said, if I win the tournament, I'm going to give John back his money.
Yes, I heard him say that.
Yeah.
I
But
asked you about that in the bathroom that day.
oh, then you're the one that told me. So I guess everything happens in the bathroom because Jeffrey Alessandro was in the next stall to me. And I said, hey, Jeff, I heard that if you won the tournament, you were going to give me my entry fee back. Is that true? And he says, yes, exactly. He says, but were you playing for 100% or less? I said, oh, I was playing for half. I had a partner. He says, and he handed me $1,250, half the buy-in back. Such a gentleman, such a nice thing to do. So he stuck to his word and he gave me my buy-in back. Very
That's
nice of him.
awesome. What a great story. I had the pleasure of interviewing him a couple of years ago on the radio show, and I'm hoping we can get him in a space here soon, too.
Oh, you get that man on your podcast for good stories. He's got a million of them.
He certainly does, and I really enjoyed his book. Um,
Oh yeah,
his
it,
book is really good. I really highly recommend it. I
that book
wanted to
is
point out, oh, go ahead,
hair
Bud.
raising. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great book. I wanted to point out that Barry sent me a message saying that the minimum age requirement for the Hall of Fame is 40 years of age. So let's
Oh,
make sure
40.
yeah. All right, Barry, you have any questions or comments? Go ahead, Bud.
No, I just want to say anytime I knock John out of a tournament, that's what I always used to say. John, come back, John, come back.
You were glad to get rid of me. Come on, Barry, admit
Absolutely.
it.
I love it.
now that
I
now
love
that now that Barry's on the phone, I have a question for y'all. It's about the Hall of Fame, and my body of work extends over 40 years. But is there a difference between my body of work and then the body of work when I was age 40 to 65? Because that's when you really prove yourself. It's like a baseball career is only 20 years long, but a poker career can be really, really long. And should you be judged as a Hall of Fame member when you're in your 70s and 80s? Like, well, he's not keeping up the way he used to. Because I remember one kid said, you really need to win another bracelet. And that's a rough thing to say to somebody who's 79 years old. How many 79 years old go out
Right.
there and win
well,
bracelets?
and I think that somebody that would say something like that is just looking for an excuse to disqualify someone else for their own selfish reasons. I think it's about somebody's body of work and whether that body of work takes place between 20 and 40 or 30 and 50 or 40 and 60 or 50 and 80. That, so be it. But it's their, it should be the body of work and your numbers speak for
Right.
themselves.
Yes, and then coming into my 79th year was one of my best years ever. Three major events at the Win, very proud of them. Um, a second place at the Win. And, these are against good players. These are not immense fields, but there were, 100 to 200 players. So, there was a lot to be proud of then. So even at 79, I was still kicking butt a little bit. But it always made me wonder, when you judge somebody for their work to get into the Hall of Fame, what period of time should that be? Should it be their whole life, or should it be just the certain body of work that they did when they won three bracelets, when they won two rings, when they made 588 cashes? To me, that's what you should be judged for.
I agree. And I'm just going to repeat this for those that weren't here earlier. And I know some will go back and replay this interview. But in 2023, which is what John is referring to, he cashed 55 events. He had 8 first place finishes 8 second place finishes, and 8 third place finishes for a total of 24 of the 55 caches were in top 3 finishes. And he was 80 years old at the time. Come on, people. We
He
have
was
20-year-olds
slacking.
not doing
You were slacking, John.
Yeah,
that.
I should have won 4.
All right, we're going to go around the horn. Software, you're first. Go ahead, bud.
I just want to say thank you for coming out, John. Really appreciate you,
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
I'm definitely on team Miami. Oh wait, what is it? Miami
Yeah,
doll,
Doll face.
baby
Oh,
doll,
baby
John.
doll.
baby doll. No, I don't think I'm going to be on that one. I'm sorry.
Miami baby doll, John. That's the last I heard of that one.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it.
But yeah, and genuinely enjoyed having you.
I'm going to let the rest of our audience members know if you have any comments or questions for John. Go ahead and hit the request button in the bottom left corner of your screen, and you're more than welcome to join us up here and chat. Fat, you have any other questions or comments? He may have stepped away. We'll come back. Um, Isaac, how about you? Questions or comments?
No questions. Again, just so dope to hear like that side of poker that is so lost these days. I just love to hear about all these stories. I study and really revere that time in poker. Everything pre 2000 to me is like almost like an enchanted era when it comes to poker. So it's hella dope to hear stories of that. Besides that, yeah, I already put the post up. I tagged WSOP and DNegs. I encourage everybody else to do the same. Let's try to get them in there.
Thank
Well,
you. Appreciate that.
thank you very much. I know stories are good. A lot of people say, John, you should write a book. You know so many stories. Problem is, I forgot most of them. But little interviews like this always bring back certain memories, and they are fond stories, and they're fun to tell.
Well, we certainly love and enjoy listening to them for sure. Burrows, any last questions or comments?
No, I just want to thank him, again for coming on here. You were one of the people during the, poker boom that I remember was a character on the old ESPN broadcast. So getting to talk to you all these years later is awesome. And it's good to, see you're still around and you're still, you know, doing your thing. And I just really enjoy the fact that we get to interact like this. And thanks a lot for
Yeah.
doing it. I
Well, you're
appreciate it.
welcome. Like I said, I'm not much of a person who gets involved with politics or things of that nature. And I didn't really take off to Hollywood like a lot of the other players did and do a lot of those tournaments up there. But this is when I lose my thought. So I'll get
That's
back to it.
okay. You're doing great. I know you're probably starting to get tired. So I'm going to let Barry have a moment. Last thoughts or questions, Barry?
Yeah, it's all like I said. It's always great to see you. I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm glad you were able to figure out how to turn the phone on and use the app. As
Well,
always, this.
I always enjoy playing poker with Barry. He's truly the most quietest, funniest poker player I've ever met in my life. He just cracks me up all the time. He just comes up with some stuff that's just crazy. We love you, Barry, too. I definitely.
Oh, we do.
And what is it, Barry? Cash App or
Pirate,
Dollar sign pirate 212. Yeah.
$ Pirate
yeah?
212. We love Barry in the spaces. We love his sense of humor and his stories too. Go
How's your
ahead,
son?
Fat.
How's your son doing, Barry, in poker?
Oh, that was my nephew. But yeah,
Oh,
he's
nephew.
doing good. Yeah,
Good. Glad to
he's
hear it.
always tagging along. I remember we were playing in February of 2020 in California, like a week before COVID struck, and they canceled the rest of the tournaments and sent us all home. You remember that?
Yeah.
I think that was
Yeah.
the last time we were on the road together.
Yeah. I remember a funny story. There was a woman named Sherry, not you, Sherry, but she ran the Commerce Casino in back in, I think, 2017. And it was a WPT tournament, LA Classic, and I made it to day 2. And I walk to my table, and I think it was Johnny Chan says, "You're probably sitting over here." I said, "No, that's not my table." It was John Hennigan, John Esposito, and John Juanda, and a couple other Johns. They said, "Well, your name is John." I said, "Yeah, but I don't know why I'm not here. I got a different table." And they said, "Well, they put all the Johns together. Instead of doing by last name, they did it, or chip amounts, they did it by first name. So you had a table of Johns, a table of Mikes." And I said, "Well, I wonder why I'm not here." So I go to my table, and there's a bunch of Mikes there. Mike Mattisell, Mike Waddell. And I said, "What the hell's going on?" He said, "Well, Sherry put everybody in by their first name." And what I got from that, it was a lot easier playing all the Johns. I mean, all the Mikes, as opposed to sitting on there with Johnny Chan and John Hennigan. So I caught a break. But after the first break, they changed it back and they redrew all the seats for day 2. Pretty funny story.
That is funny. So they sat you by Miami John instead of John
Yeah,
Cernuto.
they put me in the M. They didn't have a table for Miami, so they put me with the Mikes.
That's hilarious. Okay, Fats, go ahead, bud.
The yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I think your memory is starting to go because
Definitely.
Barry's really just a troll. Don't I think your memory of him is faded. But
Oh, Barry's special. Come on.
He is special.
seriously, seriously, I'm I can't. You made my day that I happened to catch that you're on this thing, and that I got to talk to you because I haven't seen you for so long, and it
No,
was
thank you.
great to remember the few stories. And I mean, I think other than the 2 final tables, I think there was a third final table that we were at some point. And I remember when I would run into a tournament and see you there, I would always think it was a good sign because somehow we kept meeting at final tables. So, but
Well, Steve,
I'm glad to see you're still around and you're still playing, and uh, wish you many more years.
well, thank you, and thank you for having oxygen that day because I believe the paramedics used your oxygen on me. So you probably saved my memory. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's awesome. What a great story.
By the way,
All
I'm
right.
not on oxygen. I don't need oxygen anymore.
Oh,
I
good for
used to be
you.
on it, have to be on it 24 hours, and I'm off of it now. I don't have to be on it at all.
Good for
That's
you.
great. That's
Congratulations. That's
great.
great to hear, Steve.
That's great news, Fats. Very good news indeed. All right, you guys. Asimov, I guess you're our only entrant, so you get the t-shirts. So DM me what size you want and your address and where you want me to send it, and we'll get that out to you, bud.
Super
Congratulations.
lit. Thank
Oh,
you.
and you're
Yes,
welcome, Sherry.
I just want to say I entered also and did that, but he can definitely have the
Oh
shirt.
wait,
I
I
just
didn't
did
see
that
it.
for
No, 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 no,
no,
no.
no, 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 no. Give him the shirt. I don't want to
It
say.
didn't
I
pop
just
up.
want to say that I think that John definitely deserves consideration. So I also did that.
Give
Okay,
But
them both.
time out.
Give
Time
them
out.
both
no, yeah, I have plenty of T-shirts, so
Time
I'm
out.
good.
Time out. My
No,
thing just updated. It's not only
I'm gonna send him the shirt if you send it to me, so he
listen,
gets the shirt. But
Give,
thanks again,
ACP
Miami John.
now.
give them both a shirt.
Now listen, Burrows. My thing just updated. ACP also did it. So guess what? I'm going to make sure all 3 of you get a T-shirt. So DM me the size and your names and addresses, because I'm not sending it to Burrows. Names and addresses so I can get them shipped to you guys. And that is not a problem. Just DM me sizes and addresses, okay, you guys? And I appreciate you.
That's the Sherry I know and love. Fair and balanced. Very nice of you, Sherry.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We're supporting our firefighters,
And
and that's what those t shirts are about. And of course, we're supporting each other. So, again, thank you for joining us tonight, everybody. John,
and And John, I just want to say I'll be praying for your health and all of that as
Thank
well.
you. Thank
So
you. I
Absolutely.
really appreciate prayers mean a lot. Thank you very much.
We will all be praying for you and can't wait to hear more positives coming from your health officials.
Well, you can
And
see by the stories that we said that I am a fighter and I intend to fight this all the way.
well, and you're doing a great job so far, sending our love and prayers. And thanks for joining us, John, and everyone else. Have a good weekend.
Thank you for having me. That's just very, very kind. I appreciate it. It's been an honor to be on your show. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.